welcome back to my channel Ujima Flip Books. If you're new here, my name is Jo and I am a thriller, mystery, suspense, crime fiction, Nordic noir reader from the UK. I'm now adding arms into this, as you do. Apologies if there is loads of background noise, but we're still in the middle of a heat wave. I still have a window open that does absolutely nothing in terms of providing any airflow, and yeah, I've got just the general outside noise coming in, but we're going to go with it because if we don't, then I won't have any videos because this is the only time that I have available to film during the heat wave. Yay! I shouldn't complain because I actually really like the summer because I like sitting out and just reading books on a deck chair, but it's not great for when you're just in your office and melting, but there we go. Today I have once again got another book review, and it is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. This is the second Alice Feeney book that I've read, the first one being Rock, Paper, Scissors, which I will leave my review for up there. My friend Cameron put me onto Alice Feeney. I'm loving spoiler for the review bit, but yeah, my friend Cameron has amazing recommendations because Alice Feeney is quickly becoming one of my favourite authors. I'm sure somebody will correct me, but I think Sometimes I Lie was her debut novel. Her books are standalone, so I don't need to read them in any particular order. I'm just going with, to be honest, for this one was whichever was cheapest as the next one on Amazon, and Rock, Paper, Scissors because that was the one that Cameron had specifically said was her favourite, so that's why I went with that one first. But yeah, second time reading Alice Feeney. So what is this book about? So this book is about Amber, who is in a coma. She can hear the people who are in a hospital room, but she can't interact with them. They don't know that she can hear because she's in a coma. The book kind of centres around how she ended up in a coma, like what happened to her to get to that point. And it's kind of like as she floats between sort of present and past, her figuring out what happened to her essentially. She can't remember anything, but the only thing that she really knows is that she's convinced her husband Paul had something to do with it. So what did I think of this book? So for me, this book is a classic psychological thriller. It sits much more in that landscape than Rock, Paper, Scissors does, but I was hooked from the very first chapter, or don't know if it would really class as a chapter, but the first page of the book completely had me hooked. It is only a very short introduction chapter, but it literally says, "My name is Amber Reynolds. There are 3 things you should know about me. 1, I'm in a coma. 2, my husband doesn't love me anymore. 3, sometimes I lie." That was enough to get me hooked, but the entire book, I just could not put it down. I started reading it one night after work, and by the time I was like falling asleep with the book, I'd read over half of it. Did the same the next night, and then it was like 2:30 in the morning by the time that I was putting the book down, which is super ridiculous when you've got to get up for work at 6 o'clock in the morning, so you end up having next to no sleep. But there was no way I could stop once I was sort of like 75% of the way through the book, because it was literally unputdownable. All of the characters in this book are complex and all have a great depth to them. Amber, the main character, is a beautifully unreliable narrator, like possibly the most unreliable narrator that I've ever had within a book, because we have the opening thing of sometimes she lies, so straight away is anything she says actually truthful? Then mix that with being in a coma and having a head injury, and there isn't any other character within the book who does any of the narration. It's all done first person, so I never had a stable point of reference that I could use as a source of truth. Everything is questionable because she's just purely unreliable. The book switches around timelines, so we have the before, which is when Amber is about 10 years old, 10, 11, and it's all done in diary form. We have the now, which is Amber in a coma, and then we have the then, which is all sort of the lead up to Amber being in a coma. This construct is used really well to help keep sort of the flow of all the strands of storyline and the different characters. It all keeps it quite well contained because there is a lot going on in the story, so it could be quite easy to get kind of lost in like where everything is, but having a very definitive time period for each definitely helps. Up until I started talking to a camera and having this YouTube channel, I didn't realise how many books I read that have this like switching timeline as part of the narrative. Like, I think in my first review I said about it, and then I was like, oh, I've read another one that has it, and now I'm like, wait, does every book I read have this? Like, did this become a thing that I didn't realise was happening over time? And over time, no pun intended. Yeah, has this become a thing that I didn't realise, and now every book I read will always have this? Like, don't get me wrong, I don't mind when it's done well, and this was done well, but I don't know, like, I feel like I talk about it in every single review because it's just all that exists in all the books I read now. Sorry if it's getting a bit repetitive. Yeah, don't blame me. Blame the crime fiction, psychological thrillers, suspense, mystery, Nordic noir writers. As with Rock, Paper, Scissors, there was a twist in this book. In fact, there were multiple twists. I would go as far as to say it was like a tasting menu of twists, where they started out kind of slightly smaller, and then it was like each course built up to this like showstopper course where there was this massive twist, and I was just once again left totally open-mouthed. Like with Rock, Paper, Scissors, I didn't see any of the twists coming, and I, up until reading Alice Feeney, would have prided myself on being able to follow, like, you know, to see the twists before they happened. And yeah, Alice Feeney gets me every time. I mean, obviously I've read 2 of her books, but with how many twists there were in this one, I feel like I should have at least spotted one of them. No. Just didn't see any of them coming. Completely blindsided by them all. I think the way that Alice Feeney constructs the books kind of keeps the twists hidden in plain sight, and it is very much a testament to how good her writing is that you don't see the twists coming. When I read Rock, Paper, Scissors, there was a line within the book that really stood out to me, and there was another one in this that also had kind of the same jumped out at me effect, but had completely different like emotional response to it, and it was, some people are ghosts before they are dead. I just think that way of describing how there are people who like are essentially invisible is like really poetic, and also really sad, isn't it, that there are people who essentially are ghosts. I think as well in the context that it was written possibly also had something to do with why it stood out, but yeah, just a really sad line, beautifully written. I found the characters of Claire and Paul very, very complicated, and my feelings on them even more complicated. I've had to actually go back and read some of the chapters to see if I am being overly judgmental of them, and the conclusion I've come to is that I'm going to continue changing my opinion of them more than the wind changes direction, because I don't feel like I can make a concrete decision on how I feel about them as characters because of how unreliable the narrator is. I still, having read this book, don't actually know if anything I know about those characters is true. Like, absolutely everything in that book could be a lie, and it's kind of something that like messes with your head a little bit in terms of knowing the conclusion of the story. Like, is that the conclusion? Have I come to the correct conclusion about it, or have I completely misunderstood? Or it's very open to a sequel, I would say, but also closed and a well-rounded, complete story. That, without giving too much away there. Yeah, I'm very much on the fence about the characters. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and I actually think I'm going to end up reading it again before the end of the year, because it was such a good book, and I kind of want to go back and see if there's elements that I missed, things that I could have picked up on, things that will change my opinion of characters. It was just such a good read, and yeah, I loved everything about it. So 5 out of 5 stars, would recommend. Have ordered a lot more of the Alice Feeney books. In fact, I've ordered all of her published works so far, so that I can just catch up and be up to date on what books she has, because I honestly think I've found a new favourite author thanks to Cameron. So yeah, that is everything for this video. If you've read Sometimes I Lie or any other Alice Feeney books, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you've liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, doesn't make any difference. If you aren't subscribed and you want to see more random book reviews or rants if I don't enjoy the books, and general book adventures, then hit the subscribe button down below. And yeah, that's kind of it. Don't know where my brain went then, it just went off on a tangent. Anyway, thanks for watching, see you next time, bye!